In fact, why, I have several types of love for you right here.
So in Hades, you play as Zagreus, who just happens to be the son of Hades himself. As Hades runs the underworld, Zagreus sets his sights on the surface as he is reluctant to accept his fate as being a servant of his father's domain.
You are late, boy. Have you any idea what time it is?
Thus, Zagreus is caught in a desperate climb for the surface, battling his way through his father's ghosts and goblins to reach the top. Zagreus is aided by Greek gods of Olympus on his climb, running into their blessings along the way, giving Zagreus power throughout his runs.
Why, thank you, love.
So this game structure, it marriages a top-down ARPG combat such as a Diablo 3 and meshes that together with roguelike elements such as a Slay the Spire or The Binding of Isaac. And it does it very well. So you have a hub world that you start at, and in this hub world you're able to communicate and talk to different characters and get more of the lore and whatnot from these different characters, expanding your knowledge on the world. And some of these characters, if you give them this sort of honey or whatnot, they give you abilities throughout the game. So the more you build these relationships in this hub world, you're able to have different abilities when you're on that battlefield on the climb to the surface. Before Zagreus sets out on his quests, the player is able to upgrade their character and equipment in the hub world. In the mirror in Zagreus' room, this mirror will have many aspects such as how much damage you may do to a certain enemy, to how much health you may have, to how the higher rarity and upgrade you may receive during your run. Once you go outside your room to start your quest, you will be in a arena with a friend named Skelly. In this room, you will find the aspects or weapons that the player may use in this game. There's about 6, and you're also able to access this sort of drawer, this display of trinkets that you may get from other characters. In this room, you will choose your weapon, choose your trinkets and buffs before setting out for the quest.
Finally! Pal, thanks again for that nectar bottle from before. Stuff just goes right through me like you won't believe.
Throughout the run, the player will advance through a multitude of randomized dungeons with a reward in each floor. Once you clear all the floors, there will be a boss at the end of each area. Clear the floors and defeat the bosses in each of the 4 areas, and then you'll complete your run. Combat in Hades is going to consist of 5 main attacks. There's going to be the light attack, special attack, cast ability, dash effect, and the ultimate. The light attack and heavy attack are the 2 attacks that are going to be completely unique to whatever weapon you choose before your run, which there are 6 of. I've mainly used 1 weapon, which is going to be the Sword of Zagreus. In addition to the sword, there will also be a bow, a staff, a shield, a set of gauntlets, and a Modern Warfare 2 ACR new tube class weapon. There are also 4 different weapon setups, giving each weapon different properties, giving the player up to essentially 24 different combinations to play around with, and most of my time, again, is only with one of these. Now, the cast ability in particular is a very unique ability. Without any upgrades, you will shoot this projectile that will get lodged into an enemy until it either runs out of time, it has a timer, or the enemy will die. And depending on what boon or upgrade from a god you may have will change the property of this cast ability, which Every time you use a cast ability, you will eventually need to go and retrieve these red crystal shards that is essentially the resource of this ability. The blessings from other Olympic gods is what drives this game's combat system. Each god offers a collection of different abilities that are randomized in each run. This is the core of the roguelike mechanic that packages your traditional action RPG skill tree building into more accessible bite-sized portions, letting the player construct broken builds in about a half an hour of gameplay. Lady Aphrodite, the god of love, has one of the best ultimates in the game that's able to deal high damage while also turning the targeted enemy into an ally.
I like the sound of that.
Hermes, the messenger god, is going to provide the player with general speed boosts to their build. Poseidon has one of the more fun abilities, but it's not quite viable, of giving the player the aspect of wall slam, where when you hit an enemy against a wall, you'll deal extra damage. In Hades, there are some very tough enemies in the game. Some of them may not be that tough depending on how hard the difficulty is. In Tartarus, the first area, there's a lot of enemies in the game that will not give the player a hard time. But there's these dreadful hand grabbers that will grab Zagreus and render them immobile for a short period of time. The end boss for Tartarus will be a random assortment of 3 Fury sisters: Meg, Red Angry Girl, and Murder Girl the Accuser. In the second area, Asphodel, more annoying enemies will start to appear. There are plenty of bone characters that will leap off the screen if the player does not have them locked in a combo, leaving you to chase them across the map. The mini boss fight with the witches has to be one of the most stressful encounters in the game. It essentially turns into a bullet hell game where you have to dodge multiple projectiles in close proximity.
Hey, Meg?
You called?
The boss in this section is going to be a Hydra. There's again going to be 3 of these different Hydras. The third area, Elysium, has my favorite end boss.
You, hell's spawn, shall not traverse that gate behind me whilst my compatriot and I equivalently live and breathe. Prepare for death.
The worst enemy in Elysium has to be the Shielded Warrior. This guy becomes a real pain in the butt to fight in harder levels, and being able to negate all of your damage is just something that will break your heart. In the fourth and final area, Temple of Styx / the Surface, there's going to be a main baddie that's going to be very tough to handle early on, and it's going to be these poison dart throwers. This enemy can snipe the player across the map, causing them to be poisoned, forcing them to find these pools of antidote across the map. The boss in this section is Hades.
I don't think I'll ever get accustomed to the breeze.
The level design in Hades, I think, is very well crafted. For example, I think in the first area, Tartarus has one of the most challenging set of traps in the game, but this is balanced by a pool of easy enemies to deal with. The first section really teaches the player to be well positioned and aware of their surroundings while battling. The enemies in this game also sets the player up for the end bosses of the area. Each tower you climb in Hades is going to be very diverse in its aesthetics and vibes. In Tartarus and the House of Styx is going to be an area that is going to give the player a traditional dungeon crawling vibe, going through multiple rooms filled with traps and tight structures. Asphodel features open environments with pools of lava that will slow individuals and deal damage over time. Elysium features a pristine architecture and heavenly environments. The most annoying area has to be Asphodel for its slowing lava, and one of the more harder bosses in the game has to be Theseus and the Bull Asterius in Elysium. The soundtrack in Hades meshes well with its overall tone. Two of my favorite tracks are going to be Charon's Shop tune and then the Grease music.
But you are the queen.
Hades is an absolute gem to play. Everything from the combat and abilities to the soundtrack and the story all culminates to a game that's simply hard to put down. And it's also hard to really say anything bad about this game. It runs and feels smooth like butter. If you are a Greek mythology nerd and love a good action game with a very interesting mystery-like story, then 100% of the time, I will recommend Hades.